In a distant time in the heart of Egypt, lived Moses, a Hebrew man raised in the Pharaoh's house as if he were a prince. Despite living surrounded by luxuries, he never forgot his origins and the suffering of his people, enslaved by the Egyptians. One day, upon witnessing an Egyptian overseer brutally mistreating a Hebrew, Moses could not contain his indignation. On impulse, he attacked the Egyptian to defend his compatriot and ended up taking the man's life. Aware of the gravity of his act and fearing the Pharaoh's wrath, Moses decided to flee Egypt to save his life. He crossed scorching deserts, facing loneliness and uncertainty about what awaited him. After days of walking under the burning sun, his weary feet led him to the land of Midian, a foreign and unknown region to him. Exhausted and thirsty, Moses spotted a well and decided to rest there. As he settled, he saw a group of 7 women approaching with their flocks. They were Jethro's daughters, the priest of Midian. They came to the well to water their father's animals, as they regularly did. However, as they began to fill the water containers, some rough shepherds arrived and drove them away, attempting to take control of the well and prioritize their own flocks. Witnessing this injustice, Moses felt the same sense of protection that had led him to defend the Hebrew in Egypt awaken within him. Without hesitation, he stood up and approached the shepherds. With a firm stance and decisive words, he confronted the men, reprimanding them for their disrespectful behavior. Surprised by the courage of this stranger, the shepherds retreated, allowing the women to resume their work. With the shepherds gone, Moses did not stop there. He approached Jethro's daughters and offered help. Together, they drew water from the well, filling the containers and quenching the animals' thirst. The young women were impressed and grateful for the kindness and bravery of the unknown man. After completing the task, the sisters returned home earlier than usual. Intrigued by their early return, Jethro asked, "How did you come back so quickly today?" They excitedly replied, "An Egyptian man rescued us from the shepherds and even drew water for us, giving water to the flock." Admired by their report, Jethro inquired, "And where is he? Why did you leave the man there? Go call him to come eat with us." Meanwhile, Moses remained by the well, perhaps reflecting on the direction of his life and what awaited him in this new place. Little did he know that this encounter would mark the beginning of a new chapter where he would find not only refuge but also family, love, and a purpose that would forever change the history of his people. If you feel motivated and inspired by this content, check if you are subscribed to the channel so you don't miss more videos like this. We will bring a series of content with biblical teachings and inspiring stories that motivate us to continue and not give up. Let's proceed with the story. Jethro, the priest of Midian and father of the 7 young women Moses had helped, was surprised when his daughters returned home earlier than usual. Intrigued, he asked, "How did you come back so quickly today?" The daughters, still excited by the event at the well, replied, "An Egyptian man defended us from the shepherds and even drew water for us, giving water to the flock." Surprised and grateful for the kindness of that stranger, Jethro asked, "And where is he? Why did you leave the man there? Go call him to come eat bread with us." The young women, realizing their oversight, hurried back to the well. There they found Moses, perhaps still reflecting on his escape from Egypt and what the future held for him. They warmly invited him, "Our father wants you to come to our house so you can eat with us." Moses, recognizing the hospitality and feeling welcomed, accepted the invitation. Upon arriving at Jethro's house, he was greeted with respect and generosity. They sat at the table and shared a meal. During dinner, Jethro proved to be a wise and cordial man. Interested in Moses' story, he asked about his journey and how he had arrived in Midian. Moses, trusting his host's sincerity, spoke about his Hebrew origins, his upbringing in the Pharaoh's court, and the incident that led him to flee Egypt. He spoke of his anguish seeing his people suffer and the impulsive decision that changed the course of his life. Jethro listened attentively, understanding the complexity of Moses' feelings. He recognized him as a just man with a strong sense of justice and compassion. Admired by Moses' courage and sincerity, Jethro offered him shelter. "If you wish, stay with us. You are welcome in our house." Moses accepted the offer, grateful for the welcome during such an uncertain time in his life. From that day on, he began living with the Midianite family. He engaged in daily activities, helping care for the flocks and learning about the culture and customs of the Midianite people. The simplicity of life in the desert brought him peace and the opportunity to reflect on his purpose. Living with Jethro's family, Moses gained not only a roof over his head but also friendship and respect. Jethro became a mentor and friend, sharing his wisdom and experience. They discussed faith, leadership, and the mysteries of life. Moses, in turn, demonstrated diligence and humility, earning everyone's trust. Thus, amidst the mountains and pastures of Midian, Moses began a new phase of his life. Far from the Egyptian palaces and the tensions that had tormented him, he found a community that welcomed him with open hearts. This stay not only provided him with shelter, but also prepared him for the future challenges that were to come, shaping him for the mission that awaited him. Time passed as Moses lived in Jethro's house, becoming part of the Midianite family's routines and traditions. He worked hard, tending to the flocks and learning the ways of the desert. His dedication and character did not go unnoticed by Jethro, who admired the integrity and humility of the man who had come from so far away. Among Jethro's daughters, Zipporah stood out in Moses' eyes. She was a woman of strong spirit and gentle heart, who shared daily tasks with him and the stories around the campfire on starry desert nights. Over time, a deep friendship blossomed between them, marked by mutual respect and admiration. Jethro, being a wise and observant man, noticed the special connection between Moses and Zipporah. Recognizing Moses' value not only as a worker but also as a man of faith and principles, Jethro considered him a good husband for his daughter. One day, calling Moses for a conversation under the shade of a large tent, Jethro said, "Moses, you have been like a son to me since you arrived in this land. You have shown loyalty and kindness to my family. I would like to offer you the hand of my daughter Zipporah in marriage, if that pleases you." Moses was deeply honored by the proposal. The affection he felt for Zipporah was already great, and the idea of marrying her filled his heart with joy. With humility, he responded, "It is a great honor for me, my lord. Zipporah is a virtuous and loving woman. I gratefully accept your offer." Preparations for the wedding began. The Midianite community rejoiced at the news, and everyone participated in the festivities. The usually silent desert was filled with music and laughter. Tents were decorated with colorful fabrics, and tables were set with the best foods the land could offer. On the day of the celebration, Moses dressed in traditional attire, and Zipporah adorned herself with beautiful jewelry and a delicate veil. Ceremonies were held according to the customs of the time, with blessings pronounced and vows exchanged before family and friends. The night sky seemed to shine more brightly, as if the stars shared in the joy of that moment. After the wedding, Moses and Zipporah established their home with Jethro's family. Life continued with simplicity and work, now enriched by the love they shared. Zipporah proved to be a dedicated and strong companion, supporting Moses in his responsibilities and bringing joy to his days. This union marked the beginning of a new phase in Moses' life. He was no longer a stranger in a foreign land, but a beloved member of a family and community. Through his marriage to Zipporah, Moses found not only love but also a renewed sense of belonging and purpose. As the years passed, Moses continued to learn and grow, both as a man and as a leader. The Midian desert became his home, and there he discovered the peace and stability he had long sought. Little did he know that this tranquility would be interrupted by a divine call that would change his life once again. But for now, he enjoyed happiness alongside Zipporah, building a story of love and faith that would echo through the ages. Do you feel any similarity between your current moment and the story told? Do you feel you are experiencing something similar? Tell us how you feel. If you need a prayer or help, share a story of overcoming to inspire us and give strength to not give up. Comment if you want to help someone or need help. Time continued to pass in Moses' peaceful life in Midian. Married to Zipporah, he found joy in the simple daily routines, tending to the flocks, exploring the desert landscapes, and enjoying conversations under the starry desert nights. The peace he felt there was a stark contrast to the turmoil of his past in Egypt. One day, Zipporah approached Moses with a radiant smile and bright eyes. In a soft voice, she shared news that filled Moses' heart with indescribable joy. They were going to be parents. Moses felt a wave of emotion wash over him. The idea of bringing new life into the world, building a family, gave him a renewed sense of purpose and hope. The following months were filled with anticipation and preparation. Moses cared for Zipporah with deep affection, ensuring she was comfortable and happy. Together, they planned for the future, imagining how it would be to hold their son in their arms, teach him about life in the desert, and share with him the stories of their ancestors. The Midianite community shared the couple's happiness. Jethro, now a proud grandfather, offered wise counsel and support. Zipporah's sisters helped with the preparations, while neighbors brought gifts and words of encouragement. There was a sense of unity and celebration in the air. Finally, on a calm night, under the vast starry desert sky, Zipporah gave birth to a healthy boy. Moses, holding his son for the first time, felt tears of joy rolling down his face. The little one looked at him with curious eyes, and in that moment, the world seemed to revolve around that sacred bond between father and son. They decided to name the boy Gershom, a name that held deep meaning for Moses. He explained to Zipporah, "I named him this because I have been a foreigner in a foreign land." The name Gershom represented Moses' journey, his struggles, and the redemption he found in Midian. It was a reminder that even far from his homeland, he had found a home and a family. The birth of Gershom marked a new chapter in Moses' life. Now, in addition to being a husband and son-in-law, he was a father. Responsibilities increased, but so did the joy and sense of fulfillment. Moses dedicated time to teach Gershom about the wonders of nature, showing him the stars and telling stories about the God of their ancestors. Zipporah watched lovingly, happy to see the connection between them. As Gershom grew, Moses reflected on his own journey. He thought about how the desert, which once seemed like a place of exile, had become a place of blessing. With every laugh of his son, every step taken, he saw proof of the mercy and grace that had transformed his life. The family frequently gathered around the campfire, sharing meals and stories. Jethro told ancient legends, while Moses added accounts of his life in Egypt and the lessons learned. Gershom listened attentively, his eyes shining with admiration. These moments strengthened family bonds and built memories to be cherished forever. Despite the happiness surrounding him, Moses occasionally felt a pang of longing and concern for his people in Egypt. He knew that the Hebrews were still suffering under Pharaoh's oppression. However, he also understood that his place at that moment was beside his family, nurturing and protecting them. The birth of Gershom not only brought personal joy to Moses, but also symbolized hope and continuity. It represented the possibility of a new beginning, even after times of difficulty and uncertainty. Life in Midian had given him more than shelter, it had given him love, family, and a renewed sense of purpose. Thus, the story of Moses, Zipporah, and Gershom wove together threads of love, faith, and resilience. Each day was a gift, and the future, though unknown, was faced with courage and hope. Little did they know that this phase of peace and growth would be essential for the grand plans God had reserved for Moses, and consequently, for the entire people of Israel. Years had passed since Moses had established his life in Midian. As a shepherd for his father-in-law Jethro, he had grown accustomed to the desert's tranquility and the simple routine of caring for the sheep. Alongside his wife Zipporah and his son Gershom, Moses had found peace and meaning after years of uncertainty. One day, Moses was leading the flock beyond the desert, arriving at the base of Mount Horeb, also known as the Mountain of God. The sun shone brightly in the clear sky, and the silence was broken only by the bleating of the sheep and the gentle breeze blowing through the rocks. Moses, attentive to the animals, slowly climbed the mountain in search of fresh pastures. Suddenly, something unusual caught his attention. In the distance, he saw a bush in flames. Intrigued, he noticed that although the fire consumed the plant, it was not destroyed. The bush burned intensely but remained intact. Moses thought to himself, "What strange phenomenon is this? I will approach to see why the bush is not being consumed." As he drew closer, the glow of the flames became more intense, but curiously, it did not emit heat that would burn him. When he was close enough, he heard a voice calling to him from within the bush, "Moses! Moses!" Startled and surprised, Moses replied, "Here I am." Then the voice said, "Do not come any closer. Take off your sandals, for the place where you are standing is holy ground." Moses immediately removed his sandals, recognizing the sanctity of that moment and place. With his heart racing, he awaited the next word. The voice continued, "I am the God of your father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob." Upon hearing this, Moses covered his face, fearing to look directly at God. The Lord then said, "I have certainly seen the affliction of my people who are in Egypt and have heard their cry because of their oppressors. I know their sufferings. So I have come down to deliver them from the Egyptians and to bring them to a good and spacious land, a land flowing with milk and honey." Moses listened attentively, each word echoing deeply in his heart. God continued, "Now go, and I will send you to Pharaoh to bring my people the Israelites out of Egypt." Overcome with a mix of fear and admiration, Moses asked, "Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and bring the Israelites out of Egypt?" God replied firmly, "I will be with you. And this will be the sign that I have sent you. When you bring the people out of Egypt, you will worship God on this mountain." Still unsure, Moses said, when I go to the Israelites and say to them, 'The God of your fathers has sent me to you,' and they ask me what his name is, what shall I tell them?" God said to Moses, "I am who I am. Say this to the Israelites, 'I am has sent me to you.'" And God gave him detailed instructions on how he should proceed, assuring him that he would not be alone in this mission. After this divine encounter, Moses descended the mountain with a heavy heart burdened by the great responsibility entrusted to him. He knew that returning to Egypt meant facing his past and confronting the powerful Pharaoh. But he also felt the flame of determination burning within him, driven by God's call. Upon arriving home, Moses told Zipporah everything. He described the vision of the burning bush, God's voice, and the mission he had been given. Zipporah listened attentively, sensing the seriousness and urgency in her husband's words. With wisdom and compassion, she said, "If God has called you to free our people, then you must go. I will be by your side, and together we will face whatever comes." Zipporah's support was crucial for Moses. They began preparing for the journey. Jethro, upon hearing of the divine call, blessed Moses and wished him success in his mission. He said, "Go in peace, and may the God of your fathers be with you." Moses gathered his family and set out for Egypt, carrying with him the staff that God had transformed as a sign of his power. The journey would be long and full of challenges, but Moses felt strengthened by God's presence and Zipporah's support. As they walked through the desert, Moses reflected on what awaited him. He knew convincing Pharaoh would not be easy, but he trusted in God's promises. He also thought about his people's suffering and the hope of leading them to freedom. Zipporah, noticing Moses's concerns, offered words of encouragement. "Remember," she said, "God chose you for a reason. He will give you the words and strength you need. We believe in you." Thus, with faith and determination, Moses advanced toward Egypt. The encounter at the burning bush had transformed his life, giving him a mission that would change the fate of an entire nation. And beside him, Zipporah walked as a faithful companion, ready to face the challenges the future held. Leave a like if you are enjoying this, so YouTube continues to recommend videos like this and helps and motivates us to continue. We thank you for every second, and may God bless you. After the powerful encounter with God at the burning bush, Moses was determined to fulfill the mission of freeing the Israelites from slavery in Egypt. With renewed courage and the divine promise to be by his side, he prepared his family for the journey. Zipporah, always supportive, helped with the preparations, ensuring everything was ready for the long trip. They set out at dawn, with Moses carrying the staff that symbolized God's power. Zipporah and their children, Gershom and Eleazar, accompanied him, confident in Moses's leadership and divine protection. As they traversed the arid expanses of the desert, the nights were filled with stories and prayers, strengthening the family's faith and unity. One day, during the journey, Moses began to feel strangely unwell. A sense of weight and worry fell upon him. Although he did not understand why, he knew something was wrong. At that moment, the Lord confronted Moses for not fully observing the commandments that distinguished the people of Israel. The crucial point was that Gershom, the firstborn of Moses and Zipporah, had not been circumcised according to the covenant established between God and Abraham. Circumcision was a physical and spiritual sign of dedication to God, a sacred tradition marking the Hebrew people's identity. Omitting this rite placed Moses in direct disobedience to divine commandments. Realizing the seriousness of the situation and fearing for her husband's life, Zipporah acted swiftly. With determination and courage, she took a sharp stone, the only tool available at that moment, and performed Gershom's circumcision. Although it was a delicate and difficult task, especially in the desert, Zipporah knew it was necessary to save Moses and align the family with God's will. After the procedure, Zipporah touched Moses's feet with a sign of Gershom's circumcision and said, "Surely you are a bridegroom of blood to me." This symbolic act and her words represented reconciliation with God and the fulfillment of the sacred covenant. Immediately, the oppressive feeling weighing on Moses dissipated, and the divine presence ceased to confront him. Moses, now aware of the importance of fully obeying God's instructions, deeply thanked Zipporah for her decisive action. He understood that to lead the people of Israel and demand the Pharaoh's release of the Hebrews, he first needed to ensure his own household was in accordance with divine precepts. The journey continued, but this incident left an indelible mark on the family. It served as a powerful reminder of the importance of obedience and faith. Zipporah demonstrated not only courage but also a deep understanding of Moses's mission. Her gesture saved her husband's life and reaffirmed the family's commitment to God. As they continued toward Egypt, Moses and Zipporah discussed the challenges that awaited them. They knew confronting Pharaoh would be just the beginning of a series of trials. However, they were strengthened by the experience they had just lived through. Their trust in each other deepened, and the certainty that God was guiding their steps gave them hope. The nights in the desert became moments of reflection and teaching. Moses shared stories of his ancestors with his children, emphasizing the importance of following God's ways. Zipporah added her perspective, teaching them about courage, compassion, and the importance of acting when necessary. This episode also taught Moses about leadership. Before leading an entire nation, he needed to ensure his own family was in harmony with the principles he would preach. The experience reinforced in him the humility and responsibility essential for the great task ahead. Finally, as they approached the borders of Egypt, Moses felt more prepared. He not only had God's support but also his family's, who understood the depth of his mission. The incident on the way, though challenging, served to further unite Moses and Zipporah, making them steadfast partners in the journey that would change the fate of his people. Thus, with a strengthened heart and renewed faith, Moses moved forward to confront the Pharaoh, knowing he was not alone. Zipporah's courage and divine protection would be constant companions as he fulfilled the call to free the children of Israel from slavery and lead them to the Promised Land. Leave a like if you are enjoying this, so YouTube continues to recommend videos like this and helps and motivates us to continue. We thank you for every second, and may God bless you. As Moses approached Egypt, the responsibility of confronting Pharaoh and demanding the Israelites' liberation weighed heavily on his shoulders. He knew this divine mission would be filled with challenges and dangers. Moses' heart was torn between the duty entrusted to him by God and the safety of his family. Zipporah, his beloved wife, and their children Gershom and Eleazar, were too precious to be exposed to the impending risks. One quiet night, camped under the vast starry sky, Moses sat beside Zipporah. The flames of the campfire danced, casting soft shadows on their faces. In a serious yet tender tone he said, "My dear, the coming days will be difficult. I do not know how Pharaoh will react to the words God has commanded me to speak. I fear the dangers that may surround us." Zipporah looked deeply into Moses' eyes, sensing the worry that consumed him. "We are by your side," she replied. "Together, we will face whatever comes." Moses held Zipporah's hands and explained, "I know your strength and courage, but I feel it would be safer for you and our children to return to my father-in-law's house. I do not want you to be at risk because of me." She pondered for a moment, understanding the wisdom in Moses' words. Although her heart wished to stay by her husband's side, Zipporah recognized that her children's well-being was paramount. "If you believe it is best for us, we will return to Midian. But know that our thoughts and prayers will be with you every step of the way." The next day, with a heavy heart, Moses helped Zipporah prepare for the trip back. He hugged Gershom and Eleazar, instructing them to obey their mother and grandfather. "Be strong and take care of each other. We will be together again soon." Zipporah, showing the strength she had always exhibited, mounted the pack animal with the boys by her side. Before leaving, she touched Moses' face and said, "May the Lord guide and protect you. We will be waiting for you." Moses watched as his family walked away, feeling a mix of sadness and relief. He knew they would be safe under Jethro's care, allowing him to fully concentrate on the mission God had given him. Zipporah's journey back to Midian was peaceful. Upon arrival, Jethro greeted her with surprise and concern. "What happened, my daughter? Why are you returning without Moses?" She explained the entire situation, from God's call to Moses to the imminent difficulties in Egypt. Jethro, a wise and experienced man, understood the gravity of the events and welcomed Zipporah and the grandchildren with open arms. "You will be safe here. Together, we will await news of Moses." Meanwhile, Moses continued toward Egypt, now alone but determined. The separation from his family weighed on his heart, but it also motivated him to fulfill his mission with even greater effort. He knew each step brought him closer not only to freeing his people, but also to reuniting with those he loved. In Midian, Zipporah maintained her faith. Every day, she prayed for Moses' protection and the success of his mission. She taught the children about their father's courage and obedience to the divine call, keeping alive the hope that they would soon be reunited. News about events in Egypt reached sporadically. Reports of the plagues and the confrontation between Moses and Pharaoh reached Zipporah and Jethro. Though worried, Zipporah felt proud of her husband and trusted that God would sustain him. Finally, after many challenges, Moses led the Israelites out of Egypt. The long-awaited liberation had occurred. Information about the Hebrew people's journey reached Midian, filling Zipporah's heart with joy and relief. Jethro then decided to gather the family. He prepared the camels and, accompanied by Zipporah and the grandchildren, set out to meet Moses in the desert. The reunion was emotional. Moses spotted the familiar figures in the distance and hurried to meet them. He embraced Zipporah with deep gratitude. "Your presence brings me great joy," he said, his eyes moist with emotion. Gershom and Eleazar hugged their father, happy to be together again. Jethro watched the scene with satisfaction, pleased to see the family reunited and to witness God's works through Moses. In the following days, Moses recounted everything to Zipporah: the plagues, crossing the Red Sea, the trials, and the victories. Zipporah listened attentively, amazed by the grandeur of the events and God's faithfulness. Moses' decision to send Zipporah and the children back to Midian had been difficult but necessary. Protecting them from immediate dangers allowed him to focus entirely on the mission. Zipporah's return to Jethro's house was not a separation but an act of love and care. Now, with the family reunited, Moses was ready to lead his people toward the promised land. Zipporah, as always, would be by his side, offering support and sharing in the challenges and joys to come. The story of Zipporah's return to Jethro's house reminds us of the importance of family, the wisdom in protecting those we love, and the strength found in unity and faith. Even in times of uncertainty, love and trust in God guide our steps and sustain us through the most challenging journeys. After the miraculous departure of the Israelites from Egypt, led by Moses through the Red Sea, the people began their long journey through the desert toward the promised land. Moses, now responsible for guiding thousands of people, faced daily challenges, providing water and food, resolving disputes, and keeping the people's faith strong amidst difficulties. Despite being focused on his divine mission, Moses' heart often turned to his family, from whom he had been separated since he sent Zipporah and the children back to Jethro's house. Meanwhile, in Midian, Jethro followed the news about his son-in-law's deeds with interest. Reports of the 10 plagues, the Israelites' liberation, and the crossing of the Red Sea reached him. Realizing the moment was right and that Moses could benefit from his family's support, Jethro decided to bring Zipporah and Moses' children to join him in the desert. Preparing the caravan, Jethro called Zipporah. "My daughter, it is time for you to join Moses. He needs you by his side in this great mission." Zipporah, missing her husband and wanting to support him, quickly packed her things. Gershom and Eleazar, now older, were eager to see their father again and meet the people he led. The journey through the desert was not easy, but Jethro knew the paths well. They crossed scorching dunes by day and rested under the starry sky at night. During the trip, Jethro shared stories about Moses' faith and courage, preparing the grandchildren for the reunion. Finally, they spotted the Israelites' camp in the distance. The tents stretched as far as the eye could see, and an atmosphere of anticipation and movement filled the area. Israeli sentinels noticed the approaching caravan and informed Moses, "Your father-in-law Jethro is coming to meet you, bringing your wife Zipporah and your children." Upon receiving the news, Moses' face lit up with a genuine smile. He hurried to meet them. When he finally saw them, he could not contain his emotion. Zipporah dismounted her camel and ran into Moses' arms. They embraced tightly, feeling all the time they had been apart melt away in that moment. Gershom and Eleazar also ran to their father, who lifted them into the air with joy. "My beloved, how I have missed you," Zipporah said with tears in her eyes. "And I have missed you, my dear. And you, my children, how you have grown." Moses replied, hugging them again. After the family reunion, Moses turned to Jethro with deep respect. "Welcome, my father-in-law. Your presence here is a great blessing to us." Jethro smiled and replied, "I came because I heard everything God has done for you and Israel. I want to celebrate these wonders with you." Moses took Jethro, Zipporah, and the children to his tent. They prepared a banquet in honor of Jethro, inviting the elders of Israel to join. During the meal, Moses enthusiastically shared details of everything the Lord had done: the plagues afflicting Egypt, the liberation of the Israelites, the crossing of the Red Sea, and the divine provisions in the desert. Jethro, impressed, praised God, saying, "Blessed be the Lord, who has freed you from the hands of the Egyptians and Pharaoh. Now I know that the Lord is greater than all the gods, for he showed his power against those who treated Israel with arrogance." In the following days, Jethro closely observed how Moses led the people. He noticed that from dawn until dusk, Moses sat as a judge, attending to everyone who came with questions and disputes. Concerned about Moses' exhaustion, Jethro called him for a conversation. "Moses, what you are doing is not good," he said kindly. "You will wear yourself out, and the people will also become weary. This task is too heavy for you to carry alone. Allow me to advise you, select capable men who fear God, trustworthy and hate dishonest gain. Appoint them as leaders of thousands, hundreds, fifties, and tens. Let them judge the smaller matters, and bring the more difficult cases to you. This will lighten your load, and the people will go home satisfied." Moses recognized the wisdom in his father-in-law's words. He implemented Jethro's advice, organizing a leadership structure that made managing the people more efficient. This not only eased his burden, but also allowed him to focus on guiding the people in the most important matters and seeking God's guidance. Zipporah and the children's presence brought renewed energy to Moses. During rest times, he could enjoy the family's company, telling stories, sharing teachings, and strengthening emotional bonds. Zipporah, always wise and understanding, offered emotional support, helping him cope with the pressures of leadership. Eventually, Jethro felt it was time to return to Midian. Before leaving, he called Moses for a final conversation. "Remain steadfast in your mission," Jethro said. "May God always be with you. Remember what we discussed and trust in divine wisdom." Moses thanked him deeply. "I am grateful for your counsel and for bringing my family to me. May the Lord bless you on your way back." With emotional farewells, Jethro returned to Midian, leaving Moses with Zipporah and the children. The reunion in the desert not only strengthened family bonds, but also brought significant improvements in how Moses led the people of Israel. Now, with his family's support and a more solid leadership structure, Moses felt rejuvenated to face the challenges ahead. The journey through the desert would be long and full of obstacles, but the joy of the reunion and the wisdom shared by Jethro served as sources of encouragement. The people of Israel, seeing Moses' family reunited and the implementation of leaders among them, also felt more united and confident. Zipporah and the children's presence humanized Moses in the eyes of the people, showing that, in addition to being God's chosen leader, he was a family man with the same joys and concerns as everyone else. Thus, amidst the vastness of the desert, the family reunion brought light and hope. Moses continued his mission with renewed vigor, certain that with God's help, he could lead his people to the promised land. And Zipporah, as always, would be by his side, sharing in the challenges and victories, sustaining him with love and faith. After the emotional reunion in the desert, Zipporah continued to walk alongside Moses as they led the people of Israel toward the promised land. Although the scriptures do not extensively detail her participation, we can imagine the silent and significant influence Zipporah exerted during this challenging journey. The desert was a harsh and relentless place. Extreme temperatures, scarcity of water and food, and the constant complaints of the people placed immense pressure on Moses. As God's chosen leader, he carried the weight of the entire nation's expectations. In these moments, Zipporah's presence by his side was an indispensable comfort. Zipporah, with her wisdom and compassion, offered Moses advice and words of encouragement. At night, when the stars shone brightly in the desert sky, they would sit together, and Moses would share his worries and doubts. Zipporah listened attentively, providing perspectives that helped him see beyond the immediate problems. "You are not alone in this mission," she would softly say. "Remember that God is guiding your steps, and I am here to support you in every challenge." In addition to being an emotional pillar for Moses, Zipporah played a crucial role in the community. She connected with the Israelite women, many of whom faced difficulties adapting to nomadic life after years of slavery in Egypt. Zipporah shared her life experiences in the Midian desert, teaching them how to find water, prepare food with scarce resources, and care for their families in adverse conditions. Her ability to unite people was remarkable. She organized groups to care for the sick and the elderly, ensuring that no one was left behind. With her discreet leadership, she fostered a sense of community and solidarity among the women, which in turn strengthened the entire Israelite nation. In moments of conflict, when impatience and despair threatened the people's harmony, Zipporah acted as a mediator. Her calm presence and wise words helped soothe heated tempers. She encouraged faith and perseverance, reminding everyone of the wonders God had already performed in their favor. Once, during a stop on the journey, an epidemic threatened to spread among the children. Zipporah, using knowledge she had learned in Midian, organized care and guided the mothers on hygiene practices and simple treatments. Her swift and effective intervention saved many lives, further reinforcing the respect and admiration the people had for her. For Moses, Zipporah's presence was a constant reminder of unwavering love and support. Amid the pressures of leading a frequently rebellious and disheartened people, he found in his wife a safe refuge. She helped him maintain a balance between his responsibilities as a leader and his personal needs as a husband and father. Moses and Zipporah's children, Gershom and Eleazar, also actively participated in the community. Under their mother's guidance, they learned about servant leadership and the importance of helping others. Moses' family thus became a living example of the values he sought to instill in the entire people of Israel. Although not recorded in sacred texts, it is possible to imagine that Zipporah also encouraged Moses during critical moments, such as when he ascended Mount Sinai to receive the Ten Commandments. While he was absent, Zipporah likely helped maintain order and hope among the families, reinforcing trust in the divine mission they were fulfilling. Her contribution, though silent, was essential to the journey's success. Zipporah understood the importance of Moses' mission and was willing to sacrifice her personal comfort for the greater good. Her faith in God and her husband never wavered, even in the face of the greatest adversities. Throughout the years in the desert, Zipporah continued to be a source of strength not only for Moses but for the entire people of Israel. Her presence reminded everyone that leadership is not only about grand public acts but also about small gestures of kindness, understanding, and daily service. When they finally sighted the promised land in the distance, Zipporah's contribution was deeply woven into the tapestry of Israelite history. Although her name is not mentioned on every page, the impact of her actions resonated through generations. She was the faithful companion who walked alongside Moses, the dedicated mother who taught her children God's ways, and the silent leader who strengthened the community in its most challenging moments. The journey through the desert was not just a physical crossing but also a spiritual pilgrimage for the entire people. And Zipporah, with her unwavering faith and dedicated heart, played an indispensable role in this transformation. Her story teaches us that even without the spotlight, our actions can have a profound and lasting impact on the lives of those around us. Thus, as we conclude this narrative, we recognize and honor the importance of Zipporah in the Israelite journey. Her life is a testament to the power of silent support, the strength of women, and the difference one person can make when acting with love, faith, and dedication. As we reach the end of Zipporah's story, we are invited to reflect on the depth of her contribution to the journey of the people of Israel. Although the scriptures do not detail each of her actions, it is undeniable that her presence had a significant impact on Moses' life and, by extension, on the entire Israelite nation. Zipporah shows us that strength is not always found in great deeds or eloquent words, but often in silent support, shared wisdom at key moments, and unconditional love. She was the faithful companion who walked alongside Moses, facing the desert's challenges, the uncertainties of the future, and the responsibilities of leading a family amidst a wandering multitude. Her story teaches us that each of us has an important role to play, even if it is not in the spotlight. Zipporah's actions, though often discreet, were essential for the fulfillment of divine purposes. She represented the resilience, faith, and dedication needed during times of transition and difficulty. May Zipporah's journey inspire us to value silent contributions and recognize the importance of mutual support. In our own lives, we can be like her, sources of encouragement, wisdom, and love for those around us. Even when we do not receive immediate recognition, our actions can have a lasting and transformative effect on the lives of others. Therefore, let us be motivated to act with courage and determination, remembering that our attitudes can positively influence the course of other people's histories. Like Zipporah, may we face challenges with faith and become agents of change through our contributions, no matter how small they may seem. Zipporah's story is a powerful reminder that everyone has a place in life's grand plan. Her legacy encourages us to move forward, confident that with love and dedication, we can make a difference in the world around us. Thank you for watching up to here, and don't forget to subscribe and activate the notification bell to see more content like this, inspiring and motivational stories, and interesting tales. Until next time.